New shocking details are beginning to emerge. The individual in question now is former Rushville Police Chief Todd Click, and his investigation into Odinist being involved in a killing of the Delphi teenagers, Libby German and Abby Williams. The defense team cites statements made by Click in their Franks memorandum. The defense team has listed him as their witness in an attempt to prove that Richard Allen is innocent, and that these Odinists committed the murders as part of a ritualistic sacrifice to their Norse pagan beliefs. But Click has already refuted some of that claim, stating that
no one in law enforcement believes Abby and Libby were killed as part of a ritualistic sacrifice.
However, in a stunning response from law enforcement, cops have cleared all Odinist of any involvement in the Delphi murders. Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, Johnny Messer, and Elvis Fields have all been excluded as suspects after a law enforcement officer who previously worked on the case but wishes to remain anonymous said this.
In order for the investigators to make an arrest, it would specifically require other persons of interest to be cleared from any wrongdoing. Otherwise, detectives wouldn't have made an arrest without knowing who all was involved. Prior statements seem contradictory. However, the state wouldn't move forward with trial if the investigation was still ongoing. To eliminate reasonable doubt, those specific individuals were never considered suspects by Unified Command. Field's GPS location indicated he never even left the city of Rushville the entire week from 2/9/17 to 2/19/17. Other bad actors could indicate that others knew of the incident but never reported anything. However, that's a very difficult question to answer without omissions. Everything will come out in the court procedure. At this point, the investigation has led law enforcement to believe Richard Allen is the only suspect involved in the murders. Richard Allen, only suspect in the murders.
Former Rushville Police Chief Todd Click is a stand-up citizen, right? Wrong. Carroll County Prosecutor Nick McClellan now wants Click's personal records. McClellan indicates in his motion that prosecutors believe Click's employee records will show incidents of untruthfulness or credibility issues. The motion includes a subpoena ordering the Rushville Police Chief to turn over those documents. Click's investigation included 3 people whom Allen's attorneys, Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie, suggested in a 130-page memorandum filed in September 2023 might be involved in the killings. The 3 people live in the Rush County area, about 2 hours southeast of Delphi. One of those men, identified as Elvis Fields, allegedly told his sister that he was there and allegedly described particular details about the crime scene that had not been released to the public. However, Elvis Fields' statements did not match the details of the crime scene as the defense team says. And other officers with the Indiana State Police said Click is over-exaggerating the details of the findings of his investigation. In newly released information, law enforcement officers are looking into whether David Hennessy offered cash for Click to testify in favor of the defense team in an attempt to derail the prosecutor's case. It wouldn't come as odd considering Hennessy was arrested for DUI a couple years back, and Click has a history of fabricating information and probable cause affidavits on several defendants' cases in order to make the defendant appear more guilty than they actually are, which is exactly what the defense team has claimed the state is doing this entire time. McClellan intends to show all this evidence to the court by and through the subpoena that the judge has not yet ruled on. Police arrested Allen on October 26, 2022, after nearly 5.5 years of investigation, alleging that an unfired bullet found at the crime scene was ejected from Allen's semi-automatic pistol based on the markings left by the gun's ejector. Allen's trial is supposed to begin, and it is scheduled to run through the month. Jury selection will be in Fort Wayne, and after the jury is paneled, they will hear evidence and deliberate. Allen's fate in Delphi, opening statements are expected to start 17th. McClellan also filed a response asking Gull to deny Allen's motion to suppress statements about killing the girls that he made while in pretrial detention in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison. In Allen's April 11th motion to suppress his statements, Allen's attorneys alleged that being kept in isolation in a maximum security prison and taunted by prisoners and guards alike amounts to coercion by the state, and therefore any statements he might have made was under pressure from threats. McClellan's response is that Allen admitted to killing Abby and Libby to 8 inmates and 16 guards standing suicide watch at Allen's cell door, and are voluntary statements that were not induced by violence, threats, or other improper influences that overcame the defendant's free will. Therefore, McClellan believes jurors should be allowed to hear that evidence. McClellan also said that using Allen's statements does not violate his constitutional rights, since he was not being questioned by law enforcement officials when he made the statements. Furthermore, the statements the defense team has asked to be suppressed are not the 5 or 6 admissions that he made to his wife and mother. But there's just one more question to ask. If Richard Allen is innocent, and you can prove it, why does anything need to be suppressed? Because Richard Allen is guilty. Credibility. Cops. And convicts. The child killer activists are fired up after more allegations surface about the defense team lying and asking people to lie in court, and even offering to pay people to lie. Is this justice? Remember that $45,000 that was raised to help support experts for Richard Allen? To lie.
Welcome back to the Delphi Murders Rewind podcast, the only true crime podcast on a quest for the truth. Are you ready for a pounding episode? Tonight, you'll be left on the edge of your seat. This is episode 10, When Odinism Experts Collide. In a world where truth is elusive and mysteries abound, 2 experts stand at the crossroads of fact and fiction. Join hosts Anthony Greeno and Casey Conwell as they delve into the chilling connections between Odinism and the tragic Delphi murders. With decades of experience, a forensic anthropologist and doctor of osteopathic medicine claims the murders were ritualistic in nature. But a seasoned historian on Odinism challenges every assertion. In this gripping episode, we uncover the evidence, question the motives, and seek the truth. Are the Delphi murders a case of ritualistic sacrifice, or is there a more sinister plot at play? And just when you think you have all the answers, we introduce Freya, a mysterious woman of the woods. We have someone, even though a bit strange, who is actively involved and prominent member of the Odinic rite. Freya is a member of the dark religion we're diving into, and she is here to tell and show us what a ritual actually consists of, and a deeper meaning, to a twisted, deeper understanding of their god, Odin. Experts and Odinist members give their insight, a first-hand perspective, based on their personal experiences, and ultimately, whose knowledge will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Prepare for a journey into the unknown, where the lines between reality and speculation blur. This is Delphi Murders Rewind, Episode 10, When Odinism Experts Collide.
Welcome back to the Delphi Murders Rewind, the podcast where Casey and Greeno dive deep into the ongoing investigation of the tragic murders of Abby and Libby.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Greeno. In our last episode, we had an in-depth discussion on attorneys, ethics, and assassins. We explored how some attorneys are inserting themselves into the Delphi case, and they're sort of acting as voices for the defense representing Richard Allen. This coordinated effort uses their careers and likeness to influence public perception and potentially allow a self-admitted child killer to walk free.
They also discuss the character assassins, those who cyber attack individuals who disagree with their opinions or expose their lies. When will it be enough? This was the Delphi Murders Rewind, Episode 9, attorneys, ethics, and assassins. Let's rewind and take a quick listen to a clip from that episode.
Since at least the spring, I've seen him on just about every live. He's in the chat. And that really puzzled me because I thought, it just seems strange. Like, he can't possibly be gaining any information about this case. I mean, he knows all there is to know. He knows more than any of us know. But yet he's there, and he's putting things out there, and he's framing them as questions. Like, I saw him either last night or the night before, and he said, do you think, Richard Allen would go to his mother's house and then decide to go to a park and think it's neat to kill 2 kids? And he frames it like a question.
In their upcoming episodes, Casey Conwell and Anthony Greeno have some incredible guests and topics lined up. First, they'll be interviewing Dr. Mark Mirabello, an expert on Odinism, who has been studying the religion for 50 years. Dr. Mirabello will discuss whether the Delphi murders could be connected to Odinism or a ritualistic sacrifice.
Dr. Mark Mirabello is a professor of history at Shawnee State University in Ohio. He holds a PhD in history from the University of Glasgow and has authored several books on ancient religions, secret societies, and the occult. His extensive research makes him a valuable resource for understanding potential connections to the Delphi case.
They also have an explosive interview with Jalen Rain, also known as Kiara Jane. She'll discuss her undercover work, exposing scandals involving Carroll County Superior Court Judge Curtis Fowles, sex clubs, illegal drugs, and possible human trafficking.
And in episode 12, we'll cover the story of a former Delphi murders person of interest who was arrested on 11 date rape drug charges in 2021 and is now walking free in Tippecanoe County. And we're going to discuss how we can bring this wanted sex predator to justice.
They'll also delve into the Anthony Schatz account, where a computer hacker named Alex Voorhees worked closely with the FBI to gain access to Kagan Klein's private messages. You'll never guess what they found. It could be a potential connection to Richard Allen.
Did I mention that Curtis Fowles is also Greeno's paid attorney? What a coincidence.
And don't miss Alex's take on the Stevenson murders 1 year ago that led us to where we are today, still unsolved. Episode 13 is Unreasonable Doubt, where we break down some unreasonable content creators and their impact on public perception.
Tonight, they're discussing the Delphi murders, but it's not about Abby and Libby, and it's not about Richard Allen. It's about the creators discussing this case and the perception their viewers have after watching and listening to what they believe about the case is true.
We'll be using our investigative formula to break down these creators. So we're going to start with Joe Lewis from Crime Night, and then we're going to move on to Michelle After Dark.
Joe Lewis, an Australian content creator, has been covering the Delphi murders on his YouTube channel, Crime Night. He has been accused of spreading misinformation, and he's even threatened to bomb the Abby and Libby Memorial Park. This kind of behavior is not only unethical, as Madeline discussed in episode 9 that we listened to, but also it's dangerous. By spreading this false information and making threats, spreading lies, Joe Lewis is influencing public perception and potentially jeopardizing the outcome of a criminal case. Even if he doesn't realize the full impact of his actions, the fact that he continues to spread misinformation after being corrected shows a blatant disregard for the truth and justice, and overall a disgusting narrative of propaganda and conjecture put forth by Joe Lewis to destroy the credibility of the prosecution's case against Richard Allen. And it is just lies.
Michelle After Dark is another YouTube content creator covering the Delphi case. She has been accused of spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation. By doing so, she is influencing her viewers' perceptions and potentially affecting the investigation. When content creators spread false information, they can create confusion and mistrust, which can hinder the investigation and allow a killer to walk. It's crucial to hold these creators accountable and ensure that the truth is the only narrative being shared.
just like Barbara McDonald from Court TV. These creators have a responsibility to their viewers to provide accurate and truthful information. And Anthony and Casey, when they fail to do so, not only do they harm the investigation, but also the victims' families and the community seeking justice.
Using our formula, we start with information. We observe or examine the topic. We conduct our analysis. We analyze the information.
Welcome back to the Delphi Murders Rewind podcast,
that we need to move
the only true crime podcast on a quest for the truth. Are you ready for a founding episode? Tonight, you'll be left on the edge of your seat. This is episode 10, when Odinism experts collide. In a world where truth is elusive and mysteries abound,
Also known as Kiara Jane. She'll discuss her undercover work, exposing scandals involving Carroll County Superior Court Judge Curtis Fouts, sex clubs, illegal drugs, and possible human trafficking.
And in episode 12, we'll cover the story of a former Delphi murders person of interest who was arrested on 11 date rape drug charges in 2021 and is now walking free in Tippecanoe County. And we're going to discuss how we can bring this wanted sex predator to justice.
They'll also delve into the Anthony Schatz account, where a computer hacker named Alex Voorhees worked closely with the FBI to gain access to Kagan Klein's private messages. You'll never guess what they found. It could be a potential connection to Richard Allen.
Did I mention that Curtis Fouts is also Greeno's paid attorney? What a coincidence.
And don't miss Alex's take on the Stevenson murders 1 year ago that led us to where we are today, still unsolved. Episode 13 is Unreasonable Doubt, where we break down some unreasonable content creators and their impact on public perception.
Tonight, they're discussing the Delphi murders, but it's not about Abby and Libby, and it's not about Richard Allen. It's about the creators discussing this case and the perception their viewers have after watching and listening to what they believe about the case is true.
We'll be using our investigative formula to break down these creators. So we're going to start with Joe Lewis from Crime Night, and then we're going to move on to Michelle After Dark.
Joe Lewis, an Australian content creator, has been covering the Delphi murders on his YouTube channel, Crime Night. He has been accused of spreading misinformation, and he's even threatened to bomb the Abby and Libby Memorial Park. This kind of behavior is not only unethical, as Madeline discussed in episode 9 that we listened to, but also it's dangerous. By spreading this false information and making threats and spreading lies, Joe Lewis is influencing public perception and potentially jeopardizing the outcome of a criminal case. Even if he doesn't realize the full impact of his actions, the fact that he continues to spread misinformation after being corrected shows a blatant disregard for the truth and justice, and overall a disgusting narrative of propaganda and conjecture put forth by Joe Lewis to destroy the credibility of the prosecution's case against Richard Allen. And it is just lies.
Michelle After Dark is another YouTube content creator covering the Delphi case. She has been accused of spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation. By doing so, she is influencing her viewers' perceptions and potentially affecting the investigation. When content creators spread false information, they can create confusion and mistrust, which can hinder the investigation and allow a killer to walk. It's crucial to hold these creators accountable and ensure that the truth is the only narrative being shared.
Just like Barbara McDonald from Court TV. These creators have a responsibility to their viewers to provide accurate and truthful information. And Anthony and Casey, when they fail to do so, not only do they harm the investigation, but also the victims' families and the community seeking justice.
Using our formula, we start with information. We observe or examine the topic. We conduct our analysis. We analyze the information. We then move on to the investigation and determine the direction that we need to move to complete a thorough, honest, and open investigation. And then we'll move on to the findings, where we weigh the pros and cons based on the investigation. We'll reanalyze all of that, and then we will assess the potential impact of the findings and determine those consequences. And after we review all of that, we'll do another reanalyzing of everything that we've done so far, and that'll give us our conclusion, which will give us a final determination based on everything that I just mentioned.
We're going to review the videos and social media posts of these individuals, investigate their sources, and compile evidence of misinformation and threats. And then Anthony and Casey are going to evaluate the legal and social consequences of their actions and determine whether their content is harmful and misleading and lies, or truthful, transparent, and in the pursuit of justice.
Stay tuned as we put the gavel down on the conspiracy cranks and rest easier knowing at least the truth was spoken. Without us, sometimes we wonder who else would stand up and endure the consequences of being journalists and social media influencers fighting for justice for two teen girls.
Okay, everybody, this is what Casey and Greeno are up to next, right here on the Delphi Murders Rewind. Don't miss episode 10 coming up with Odinist expert Dr. Mark Mirabello. Wow, that's going to be a good one, guys.
Due to a contract with the television network airing the documentary series Murder on the Monon, the True Crime Investigates YouTube channel is down permanently. However, you can find Anthony Greeno on TikTok under True Crime Investigates and TC Investigates. You can also listen to their podcast, Delphi Murders Rewind, on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
Additionally, Casey and Greeno have a new YouTube channel called Casey and Greeno's True Crime Pursuit. They review trending true crime cases, investigate suspects, persons of interest, victims' families, defendants' families, law enforcement, court officials, and even social media content creators covering the case. Their mission is to stop misinformation and the spread of lies that tarnish the reputations of innocent people. Some of those innocent people are people like Brad Holder, and we're going to get into a little bit of that later on. But first, we want to talk about a cyber cult.
These two are going to take on the cyber group known as the Delphi Knots, who are defending a self-admitted child killer in Delphi, Indiana. The man is known as the Bridge Guy, Richard Allen. Anthony and Casey's channel is an all-out war and a fight to secure justice for Abby and Libby in the almost decade-long investigation. In pursuit of accountability, transparency, truth, and justice, they list the hashtags of Casey and Greeno and the Pursuit Team. They will be a voice for the victims of unsolved crimes.
We want you to know that you can help Anthony Greeno with his documentary series, which is 10 episodes, all 60 minutes apiece. The series is based on his own investigation into the Delphi case over the past 8 years, every single day. So we know that the documentary cost, according to these documents here that we're looking at, a grand total of $30,000. And everyone, he is only $2,500 away from that goal to fund the project. Individuals who feel compelled and want to help out, especially such a passion project for someone, I would say donate. PayPal.me/Anthony Greeno. Hit him up, help him out. Let's make this dream a reality.
Stick to your guns, son. Make me proud. Don't never back up. Don't never back down. Stand your ground and always tell it like it is. Yeah, this life's gonna be real damn tough. You take them scars and you call that bluff. 'Cause everyone's an outlaw until it's time to do outlaw shit.
Thank you for joining us here on the Delphi Murders Rewind podcast. My name is Casey Conwell alongside Anthony Greeno, and we have some guests today. And one of our guests is Dr. Mark Mirabello, and he is an expert on Odinism, and he is going to be answering some questions for us to help you and us get a better understanding and whether or not this case is tied to Richard Allen or the Delphi case at all. And so, Doctor, thank you for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time, and this is going to be an amazing segment today.
Well, thank you for the honor and the opportunity.
Kind of tell us a little bit about you, how you got in
this. When I make my comments, I'm not trying to get anyone prosecuted or executed or given life sentences. I'll just be talking about the issues in general, what Odinism is, what human sacrifice is, and so.
Yep, perfect. Sounds good.
how you even started learning about Odinism yourself.
When I was younger, I thought I was specially chosen to deliver some ideas. Now I know I was just picked at random.
When did Odinism or Asatru originate, and how did it start in the United States, and specifically the Midwest?
What it is. First of all, the name is Odinism, used in Britain by and large. And over here, most of them use the term Asatru.
If you know me and Casey, then you know that we are constantly battling back and forth in our comment section. And recently, I had an individual tell me that they don't believe our expert. Well, what do you mean, our expert? You see, Casey and I are not biased, and we're willing to talk to anybody and everybody. Can't you tell? I mean, we were nemesis, now we're friends. But regardless of all of that, our first guest is Mark Mirabello.
Americans think they're dealing with Norse mythology.
And our next one is a towering figure in the world of forensic anthropology and ritualistic crime investigation. With decades of experience, this expert has authored definitive works on ritualistic crime scenes and has been called upon to consult on some of the most perplexing cases in modern history. Recently, this expert took the stand at the Delphi hearings, delivering a bombshell testimony. They described the murders of Abigail Abby Williams and Liberty Libby German as textbook examples of ritualistic killings. Their analysis, drawn from meticulous examination of what she says are crime scene photos and social media posts, revealed chilling details. She says the bodies were staged with branches placed in symbolic patterns, replicating runes, a hallmark of ritualistic murder. But what does it mean for murder to be classified as a ritual killing? And could Odinism be connected to the Delphi case? These are the questions that haunt us. And tonight, we seek the answers. And now, for the moment that you've all been waiting for, the expert we've been talking about is Dawn Perlmutter. And tonight,
whether it's a religious symbol, but even more important in terms of, again, crime.
On the Delphi Murders Rewind. This is going to be an intense, knowledge-packed session where we aim to uncover the truth and nothing but the truth. Alongside Dawn, we also have Dr. Mark Mirabello, who has been studying the case for 50 years.
Two Odinist experts, two different opinions. Tonight, we analyze and break it all down on the Delphi Murders.